Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the MetaStellar YouTube channel. My name is Maria KOROLOV. I'm the editor here at MetaStellar. And are you looking for some free science fiction and fantasy books to get you through the weekend? We've got them. Today's list includes a witch who makes robots die when they get near her, space battles, and a spoiled rich woman who's kidnapped when the elf slaves rebel. But before we get to that, I want to thank editors E.S. Foster and Lilibet Dominguez-Torres and community member Toby Patton for helping us out with the reviews. And E.S. Foster is here with us today. Hi, Emma. Thanks for joining us.
Hi.
So Emma is helping edit our third anthology, and the first two are available for order in all the major bookstores. So I'm going to skip over all the boring administrative stuff today because you've heard it already multiple times if you're a regular viewer of the channel. And if you haven't, it's all in the description box below. And let's get straight to the books. So there's book number 5 on today's list. We're counting down to book number 1. Let me make that a little bit bigger for you guys. Hawkwitch by Ashley McLeo is the first of 4 paranormal romance books in the Bone Gates series. The other books are $5 each, and they're not in Kindle Unlimited. Kindle Unlimited is where you pay $12 a month and you read all the books you want. And the author has been on our list a couple of times before. So I'm the one who read the beginning of this book. And the way this works is we read the first few chapters of each of the top 5 best-selling books on Amazon's free sci-fi and fantasy list. So I'm not a fan of romantasy, even though I know it's the hottest new genre, but I've got a cold heart. You guys know this if you've been here before. I hate all things warm and wonderful. But who knows? I have liked some of these books, especially if there's a lot of action or fun characters or the writing's really compelling and pulls me in. So the book starts out in modern day Dublin. So I guess that makes it a paranormal romance. Lan is graduating from Trinity College, and the other graduates are enjoying themselves, but she misses the countryside and can't wait to get out of the city and go home to her mother and also her pet hawk. And we meet her best friend, and we find out that she's got hangups over her father who abandoned her before she was born. And we also learn that her mother is a nurse and also is a healer in the witch community. And Lan herself has something called light magic, but she's not particularly good at it because her grandmother is the one who trained her, and her grandmother wasn't really qualified in this kind of magic. So Lan is back home with her mom, and a woman in black shows up in the middle of the night. This mysterious woman has ears like an elf and can change shape into a bird. And she says that Lan's father sent her. The same father who abandoned her mother when she was pregnant with Lan, never answered any of her mother's phone calls or letters. That creep. So the woman brought this cryptic note with her. And it's a note from her father. And it's a puzzle and a challenge that Lan has to solve in order to find her dad. Basically, her dad wants her to prove herself to be courageous, intelligent, and powerful enough for him. He sounds like a total jerk. So I'm like, she's going to throw this note out, right? Instead, she asks her mom about it, and her mom basically says, well, if she wants to find her dad, I guess she can't stop her, and she's going to support her. Even though this jerk abandoned her, left her to raise the baby on her own, she struggled quite a bit as a result. So Lan decides to do the hunt. And I don't understand why. If anything, her father should be the one proving himself worthy to her. I mean, he's the one who really screwed up. So I can't get past this. But Lan does have her reasons. For one, she's hoping her father can teach her about her magic. And she's always been curious about him. Her mom didn't really know much about him before she got pregnant. Anyway, the book is really readable, except for Lan's daddy issues. And Lan is a fun character. The writing is pretty breezy and light, and the book should make a very fun weekend read or a summer beach read for somebody who can get past the whole looking for your dad, even though he's a jerk thing. And she's got a fun best friend who's going to help her out. And like I said, she's got this hawk as a pet / familiar. and she's got some kind of magical powers that we don't know about yet. So this promises to be a fun book. Next, we have Battles of Salt and Size by Val Saintcrowe, the first of 4 books in the Rise of the Death Fae romantasy series. The other books are $4 each, and they're not in Kindle Unlimited, and the author has been on our list before a couple of times. So this is a setting where the humans are in charge and the elves are their slaves. And the elves have rebelled, and Onivia's father, who's a wealthy man, has been killed, and so are her brothers, and also her husband, right after she got married, but before they could consummate their marriage. And her little sister has been kidnapped by an elf king. And this all happens right in the first chapter. And then, still in the first chapter, the leader of the Fae group that killed her family picks Onivia out among all the other women who were taken prisoner because she was married and didn't have any children. And he rapes her. Not because he wants to, particularly, but because he has to, for reasons. And it's a pretty explicit scene, and it's pretty disturbing. And if you're the kind of person who's disturbed by things like that, maybe you might want to skip this book. And I am disturbed by things like that. And that's going to be one of the reasons I'm skipping this book. But the guy himself wasn't written to be brutal and violent. It's almost as though we're meant to sympathize with the guy, which makes me think they'll eventually end up together, which creeps me out even more. In the next chapter, we get some of her backstory, her relationship with her sister and her father. We learn that her sister's very good at magic, and that's why the elves were targeting specifically this family in their village. They wanted her sister's magic. Then we switch to the little sister's point of view, the one who was kidnapped. So she was taken away from the village on a horse, then shoved into a room below decks on a ship, and we'll learn here some of that backstory of this country. So it seems that some of the humans are supporting the Elvish rebellion because they're business people and they've invented steam engines, and slave labor is not good for their business. And meanwhile, there's women who are protesting for women's rights as well. So this feels a lot like a parallel to the American Civil War. Anyway, after a few days, the ship gets to its destination, and the little sister is taken to meet the evil king, who's evil because he can raise the dead. And there's some plot twists, which I'm not going to give away. I do have to say that the writing is very compelling and pulls you in. The setting is gritty and kind of realistic, and we really feel how these 2 women are suffering and how jerky they are about feeling all superior to the people they've been keeping as slaves for all these years. This is not a breezy weekend read. The book kind of pulls you in and takes you over, and once you get sucked into it, you're probably going to buy the other books in a series. The writing is pretty powerful. I'm not going to stick with it because I don't want to feel things. I don't want to feel horror or sadness or despair. I don't like those feelings. I'm not one of those kind of people who watches movies that scare her or make her cry. And I really don't understand people who do, but I do understand that a lot of people do in fact enjoy those movies. So if you're somebody who falls in that category and you like books that make you feel things, I can definitely recommend this one. It's a powerful book. It's extremely well written. It does make you feel like you're in there with these women. But if you get easily creeped out by that kind of thing, you might want to skip it. Okay, next we have Aria by Ariele Sieling, the first of 3 books in the Aria Song fantasy romance series. The other books are $4 each, and they're not in Kindle Unlimited. And the author has been on our list before a few times. So Lilibet Dominguez Torres read this for us, and since she's not here, I'm going to tell you what she said. So the book is set in a dystopian future where magic and technology are colliding. Lena works in a tavern and has been keeping a low profile all her life. but there's tensions rising in the city and things are starting to get complicated. So the reason that she's been trying to keep a low profile is that whenever she gets close to any kind of technology, including androids, everything dies. So this brings unwanted attention from a mysterious group of people who are investigating android murders that are happening around the city. And so she goes on a run. Will she be able to get away, or will the people hunting her down find her? Will they discover the secrets she's been hiding? So Lilivette said that she found one thing that she found interesting was the protests across the city. She thought that maybe people are upset about the androids they're living with, but actually it's about the people who have magic in their DNA. And she finds this very interesting, and she wants to continue reading to find out more about why people are protesting and why everyone's scared of them or hates them. And she says that in the first few chapters, we don't get a lot of these answers. So there's mystery and there's secrets behind the main character. Why does technology always die? Or the way she can heal tattoos with less than 24 hours. And she suffers headaches all the time. And there's probably something to that as well. So Lilivette says she definitely recommends this book if you're into futuristic worlds where technology and magic are in conflict with each other. There's a lot of mystery and suspense, and maybe some romance. She said that she liked what she read, but she didn't really love it enough to stick with it, but she says she might come back to it later. Next, we have It Ain't Over by Robert Kerns, the first of 4 books in Nicole and Sprex, a space opera series. The other books are $4 to $5 each, and they're not in Kindle Unlimited. Toby Patton read this for us, and he's not here with us today. So, Emma, can you tell us what he thought of the book?
Yeah, so Toby starts out by saying that the initial premise is Captain Bartholomew James Coulson, already like that name, and his crew of his battle carrier have been hunting down a man named Draketh Lindrick across the galaxy for months, but they don't have any luck. So while in command, everyone in command wants Lindrick for this attempted coup, but Captain Coulson, who goes by Cole to his fleet, he actually wants the ex-general for a completely different reason, and it's actually personal. Because Lindrick massacred Cole's family and home planet while 13-year-old Cole watched from the surrounding asteroid belt. So he vows to one day hunt Lindrick down and make him pay for it. So finally, at the very beginning of the story, Cole has his chance. Lindrick and the Armada appear from a nearby Stargate, which already sounds really cool because I love a good space gate type thing, you know. They demand that Cole turn over the Thyray family, including their daughter, who is the ship's first officer. So they also have like some hostages going on. It's not really clear who exactly, you should be rooting for at this point, but taking only a minute to inform command and ignore the reservations about engaging the Armada, Cole launches an attack. He is aided by Shrex, the ship's powerful resource AI. So the ensuing battle, Toby says, spans the entirety of the second chapter. Cole is forced to take on the leadership responsibilities he's always been hesitant to fully accept. He leads his first major tactical assault, and he actually has some pretty good success. So Lindrick does end up captured, and a third of his fleet is damaged or destroyed. His crew is left begging at Cole's feet. So this is something that Cole wants. But now Cole must decide what to do with the ships, the crew, and most importantly, Lindrick. So it's not clear about what Cole is going to do at this point. Hopefully he ends up taking the high road and doesn't just randomly kill Lindrick, especially at the very beginning. But Toby says if you love action-packed science fiction, space operas, and rule-breaking antagonists, this is definitely something that you should check out. It says it hooked him from the beginning, and he says it might just be put up higher on his novels to read next queue.
Thanks, Emma. Before we get to book number 1, another romantasy about super powerful witches, I want to thank our Patreon supporters. Let me make that a little bit bigger so you can see their names. We have Regina Clark, Greg, Larina, Janet, Sophie, Marie, Alexander, Terrence, Brad, David, Anastasia, and Amira. We are able to publish all the original fiction that we publish thanks to these guys. You are awesome. We love you. Thank you so much for your support. And now, book number 1 on today's science fiction and fantasy bestseller list on Amazon's free page. The Shattered Court by M.J. Scott is the first of 3 books in the 4 Arts romantic fantasy series. The other books are $5 each, and they're not in Kindle Unlimited. So, Emma, you read the beginning of this book. What did you think of it?
Yeah, so I was excited to finally get the #1 spot, but reading the story, it was very intriguing. Starts off with Sophia. She's this young woman. She is 32nd in line to the throne to this fantasy kingdom. So she's very far down the line. She doesn't have any hope of being a royal or anything, but that's actually fine by her. Because despite being so far down the line, Sophia must participate in this ritual on her 21st birthday called the Ayas Shan. It's basically this thing where she performs these different types of rituals, and if she discovers that she has magic and is actually a witch, something that only manifests around this time, she'll immediately be married off to whoever's most convenient. And this is usually somebody who's very high up in the court, some nobleman like 20 years older than she is, that really just wants to improve their station, doesn't care about her. And then if she doesn't have any magic, she'll be married off to someone of lower ranking and outside the court. She consider that kind of like a lesser of the two evils because at least she's going to be away from all this mess that she doesn't enjoy. She doesn't want any part of this. She wants the freedom of not being seen as an object, but her waking moment is basically spent the entire time she spends acting like a proper young lady, you know. There's no escaping from any of it. And the incessant rules are likely all that she's ever going to learn. But her one comfort is Princess Eloisa. She is the strongest witch of them all. She's also the crown princess, and Sophia is her lady in waiting. And one of the cool things about her is after her death, Eloisa hasn't gotten remarried. She hasn't done any of that kind of thing. It's also implied that there's a bunch of cool earth magic that she can do, which I really hope to see more of if I ever go back into reading it. And it sounds like she's this really strong type of character that Sophia can get looked up to, and she definitely intrigued me. And then we switch to Aloysius' guard. His name is Lieutenant Cameron Mackenzie. So it starts off with him returning to Princess Aloysius' quarters because he is like her personal bodyguard. And at first it sounds like they don't really like each other. It's clear in the sort of expositional backstory from Cameron that his father wants him to kind of just seduce the princess to improve their stations, you know? But it seems like that's the last thing this guy wants. But then, like, within the next 2 pages, he and the princess immediately start in with this witty banter, and then they take it into the bedroom, and it's just, like, absolutely immediate. Like, we're still in chapter 1. I thought, okay, well, that's not the quickest scene I've ever witnessed, you know? But that definitely caught me off guard. Princess Eloisa then tasks him immediately afterward to take Sophia, her lady in waiting, on a trip to get some magical herbs. And one thing I thought was funny about this scene after the whole love scene occurs, basically the princess is like, "You're my dearest friend. Hey, I need you to do something for me," as if everything that had just happened between them was just, you know, a regular thing and she doesn't actually care about it. So that definitely leaves Cameron conflicted. And I was just laughing in my seat because that was just hilarious to me. But Sophia and her guard immediately they dislike each other. They meet up. Sophia kind of sees Cameron as like another guy just trying to boss her around when Cameron's just trying to do his job. It's like, look, I have to look after you. There's nothing really we can do about it. So they get into town. They start to purchase some herbs, but then an attack occurs at the palace. Sounds like there's cannon fire going around all over this place. So they immediately return, and in the chaos, Sophia comes into her magic, and it's like the strongest and deadliest kind. So the politics of the court are definitely thrown into disarray, and now Sophia and Cameron have to band together because enemies are cropping up on all sides, and they got to make sure to keep the princess safe. So I love the idea of oppressed witches in a fantasy setting because usually it's like I've read a lot of stories where the protagonist suddenly has all this power and it's like they're able to use it, but I haven't really seen a story where women in particular are oppressed with this magic and it's something that they don't necessarily want. It's I was left wondering, how is Sophia going to use this magic? What kind of magic do other people have? And it left me with all these different questions. So I was a little weighed down by some of the exposition, but since the series is completed, I think it's also something that I definitely want to put on my list for novels to read next. Like Toby was saying, put it a little higher up there.
So how explicit was the first chapter? Did they actually get into it?
So it was like leading up to, and then it like fades to black. But it's like you're taking your clothes off and everything. It's like because she has magic, she could just like magically rip his clothes off. And I
Okay,
was just like, okay.
so they do actually do it. So who's gonna end up with who here?
I have no idea. That was what I was
Oh.
interested in. But it was also weird because at first it sounded like Cameron absolutely didn't like her and she was like, well, my dad wants me to seduce her because then we can like be more higher favored in the court. But then it's like, I don't know, not even like half a page of paragraph and then immediately takes a left turn. I thought, oh, where are we going here? What is happening? And it cuts to that, and I thought, oh, okay, well, that threw me for a loop there. And then, but what's funny, it was funny because immediately after, she basically friend zones him. She's like, "Well, you're my dearest friend, you know that, right?" This is her laying there on the bed, and he's like, oh, yeah, I guess." Like that's a low blow to give to somebody, princess. Like, why would you say it like that?
All
So yeah.
right. Well, it's a super hot genre right now, so it's a free book. So if you like that kind of story, pick these up. I don't know how long they're going to stay free. Authors and publishers make them the first book in the series free to kind of, increase interest in the rest of the series. But the free offer only lasts so long. So get them quick. And I want to thank everybody for joining us today. And if you're interested in more from our channel, I've got a couple of videos you might want to watch. We recently did an interview with a science fiction author. That's pretty awesome. And we're serializing her book, Gods and Monsters, which is it's set in the 80s. It's about vampires and werewolves. It's super literary. And so the author's interview is here, and the first chapter of the book is here. So check that out, and we'll see you guys next Friday. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Hi.